Welcome everybody, another demonstration, and we're going to continue with the raspas. But today's conversation is actually going to be about themes. And we left off where we created a print off of yellow, and I actually have like about 4 or 5 different versions. I do have a red print that I did, and today what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it making the raspa red. And let me quickly run and get my other one, actually the raspa white. I'm so sorry, white. On the last run, what I did was I was going to create my raspa red, and so this is it. On this one I'm going to leave the raspa, actually I'm going to leave it white because I'm doing a red and a white and a blue. Now the other thing is, if you notice the color, it doesn't really look very red. It's called flame red, and it looks kind of an orange, and I've added a trans. So if you look at here, these are my notes for 2 different types of prints. I usually will have like a slew of them. I just don't have it at the hand. But this is kind of what I have here. I did add more trans on this one, and so do you see that? And so this is another red, and there's 3 reds here. And when I work with red, like a red raspa, the chances are very high that I'm going to probably use all 3 of these. Can I use one? Yeah, but there's something wonderful that happens when you add more than one red on this one. I'm going to quickly get my materials at the last minute. I did create the video, but I wanted to actually mention a couple of more things about theme here. So this one's going to be pretty much a much easier print because what I have here going is that it's not gonna require a lot. I'm gonna turn on this light. Do know that this is a makeshift. I actually got all this stuff together. This is not really a light table. I just whatever I had, I kind of created it. This is what's great about being an artist. You don't there's no problem, nothing holds you back. You just come up with a solution. I already ran this. I already put ink on my plate here, and pretty much this is what I want. And it's gonna go. This one I'm gonna try very hard, so to keep the edges all clean. What I want you to see is on this one, I actually wanted the edges kind of like blurry for it to give that little extra gesture of movement. And because this one is much cleaner, see that? You don't see, just very slight. I don't mind those because I actually like them, but I'm going to try and keep it very clean. So that means both of my hands need to stay clean. One thing that I did is that I have to mention is that since I'm working on the same theme, I actually, you're going to see that I work on different variations because I'm still trying to figure out which one do I like. They're not studies. These are considered still final works of art. Now, this is the whole thing with this one. I know this is going to be white, but I usually, like I think I mentioned it in the other video, I usually will create an outline like this, especially if I know that the background is going to be white. What I do is I'll start off creating this print here. Now the raspa is going to be white. I can just go ahead and quickly just wipe everything out, but then that's going to miss out. I'm going to miss out in all those strokes that the ink leaves behind. It's almost like residue at times, but it's almost like Van Gogh kind of strokes. Don't think I'm saying I'm Van Gogh. I'm just trying to give you some exaggeration of strokes for you to kind of comprehend. By far, no Van Gogh here. So I start off here, and since remember I said I really want this kind of very clean, so I'm going to go ahead and wipe it clean as much as I can. And this way my thumbprints won't show somewhere else. And I'll come back at the end and clean it, but the best thing is to do it at the beginning, at the start. I'm gonna turn this around and work on it like this. Here. This is going to be a pretty fast print. As I did, not sure if I've spoken to you guys. This is a kind of a small print, and this is the kind of how I started printing, is this small. And I'm going to tell you that I started printing like this because primarily, one, as a student, I did not have a lot of money, and this was a good size for paper to break them down into 4 parts and create 4 images. In your college and high school, they'll say, okay, you're going to do 4 versions of this, and they'll give you numbers. The teachers are always wanting, and the professors are wanting you to actually experiment with technique. The whole thing is the same time you're working with technique and mastering a technique, you are also working on a theme. And they'll start saying, well, you know, I need this image is going to be organic or geometric. Find an object in your house and draw it 3 times using these values, or find, and if it's a portrait, you know, maybe with this light source or that light source. So they're helping you kind of experiment and also figure out where might your strengths be, and or where your challenges are, and then you work from there. With me, believe it or not, printmaking was and still is a challenge for me, and because it was a challenge, oh my goodness, it called my attention. It absolutely did. Now I'm going to start working on this, and I think I got most of what I wanted from the outside. Now I'm going to start working on the inside. I'm going to start off with the face. This is a white raspa, and I think I'm going to want red eyes on her. So I'm going to just go ahead and leave it that color. Solid, and the iris and the pupil are both going to be the same red, and then I'll start differentiating once I get more into when I start actually adding the other reds. That will give it more volume as I work on this. I'm going to leave that here. Sometimes I have to talk to myself, and have I made mistakes? Oh, absolutely. Usually when I'm not focused. All right, now I'm going to start off with the eyes again. Now what I used to do, and I'm going to give you a little bit of history, but also a technique also. Sometimes my works were like about, 5 feet or 6 feet by, and this was printmaking. I did have to have somebody help me, Hare and Hound did. But when I started school, this is the size. And then as I went to graduate, when I worked in graduate school, I actually got larger. So maybe the same, no, much larger, maybe about 36, maybe about 3 feet, 2 feet by 3 feet, somewhere around there, 30, a little bit over. And I actually I work that way because I work with Q-tips and my finger, and I can't get any smaller, first of all. And getting any larger, I was still learning the technique. I realized that if I at the same time, I was trying to figure out how to work with viscosity, you know, the oiliness or the resistance from a thick oil to a thinner oil, and it works wonderful. And so there was a lot of things that I needed to learn, such as to add magnesium to get it thicker. What happens if the ink is too thick or too thin or too stiff? One time I was working on a really large piece, and I'll tell you that I don't use black as much anymore because I now create the black as I layer. But in the past, when I did use black, oh my goodness, it's so rich. But it would take me like a work that was midway, like about 5 times bigger than this. It might take me about 3 hours to actually do this because it was so dark, it was so intense, and I had to actually work backwards, and so I really was guessing, and so I got really good at that. The only thing, the downfall to that was one time I was working on one that was about, you know, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet tall, and it was a light box, and a real light box, and it was so hot that, and it took me a long time to work on it, that it baked the print, the ink on it. So when I went out to print, nothing came out. Well, just a residue of it. And so that was like a lot of wasted time, but never wasted time because it was knowledge that never will I make that mistake. One. Second, it taught us that we needed to give it a cool down time. And also, I also learned like which lights were way too hot to work with, and so on and so forth. Hope you can see that I'm actually adding a little bit of volume to this by where I remove. I'm going to remove here. When it comes to bigger spots, I'll just take it out from here. I actually came across these kind of tools, and I think I dropped the other one. Let's see, where are they? I'm looking for a pointed one. Anyways, I came across these tools to a point where I can actually use it to actually create fine lines here, like, and I think they're fantastic. I just haven't really mastered it. And so instead of making my images smaller, I thought, okay, this is the size of my paintbrush, my finger. So there's nothing I could do about it for right now. Maybe I'll start experimenting with the smaller tools in order to create smaller images. Not sure yet. So anyways, that was a big lesson learned, and everybody goes through it. It didn't everybody was so amazed that it didn't upset me. I go, oh no, I guess it was too hot, it baked it, and that was it. Okay, then let's usually for me, I treat it like swimming. Throw me back in the pool, and I would do another one. I would just continue it. I just felt that if I didn't do that, I might not want to get back to swimming. And so that was just my mentality. I'm not sure if it's correct or not. But sometimes I would be working 16 hours straight, but I got it done. I just wanted to get it done and to see something come out of it. Now, when I was in undergraduate school, my theme tended to be more about my personal life, my family, I'm going to move it here, my siblings. I'm a twin. And so it tended to be more of my twin and I and the stories. And that was what kept me going with a theme. As I got older, I started looking at what were my inspirations. And that was, I used to love going to Nuevo Laredo, to Mexico, with my mother. Oh, I remember telling her, Mom, you're going to take me with you, right? And she'd say, yes, but you got to go to bed. You're tired. I know, no, Mom. And I was afraid she was going to leave me. Basically, my mom, to make ends meet, she would help one of my aunts two of my aunts who actually had flower shops, and they also made wedding cakes and fixed salons. Oh my God, I loved doing that. I just loved it. And I just didn't want to miss it. And so actually in graduate school, I actually took out that, and it started off that I did a, what is it called? A gift for a friend of mine. And it was how I got into graduate school. I did a gift, and I did a wedding present for her of her wedding. So I was one of her bridesmaids. And so when I did that, I gave her one painting, but I ended up creating, oh my goodness, like 15 paintings of the rituals of weddings in the Mexican families, and I just fell in love with that. And so from there, it was just, I got into graduate school. I guess they were interested in what story I had to say. And that's the whole thing about themes. It's what is the story? What is your story? What are you trying to say? And mine was about my culture, my family, and it is about mine. And then it gravitates a little later on, and we'll talk about it in a little while. Then it changes to my story, but within a bigger picture. And for a long time, it was my story within the confinements of my family, you know. And, sometimes you're your best psychologist when you're working like that. I'm going to go ahead and get this one and clean it up also, but leave the residue, if you can tell. See that? I'm just leaving residue there. Well, it's not residue, but they're strokes. All right, let me continue cleaning. Making the raspa white. Anyways, so I will never, I just cherish those times. I cherish those moments with my mother. I cherish the moments that my great aunt and my aunts gave me the opportunity to be with them. We had also another aunt who actually owned a tintoreria, which is a laundromat. And we would watch the dresses kind of get dry cleaned, and they would blow up. Oh my goodness, I just loved watching these dresses spin and then just get really big. They look like princesses with no human bodies in them. Oh my goodness, they were so beautiful. And whatchamacallit, I would watch that, and across the street we would sit upstairs on the third floor, because usually the homes were in the businesses were in the bottom floor, and the homes were on the top floor. We would see brides going into a business that was their friend who was a photographer, and the brides would come out, and the mother of the bride, and the flowers, and it was just a beautiful experience to see. It was one of the best experiences for me, that actually I was able to see colors and people talking and laughing and negotiating and making changes and dropping off of the flowers at the church, and I just loved it. I love the big refrigerator with the freezer with all the flowers, or big refrigerator. Anyways, and so we're going to talk about that, is how I got to some of these themes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just actually talk to you about that, and let me show you something. And I'm going to turn this off, that way it doesn't get too hot, but it also gives me a little time to walk away from it a little bit. I could always grab my drink, my tea, or whatever I have at this point, to quench my thirst. It used to be Dr. Peppers. They're not that anymore. It is free of anything like that. So I'm gonna bring this out to you, and you gotta understand that art themes can be like sculptures and places of where people can gather, and so those are most of the buildings that we have out there. But sometimes we deal with themes of what we know, which is us looking out. And this is part of 2014 of discernment. But what I had here is the brides, which were probably about 1990s, where I kind of explained to you that I went from undergraduate learning about me, my twin and I, and the relationship. And then I got into the brides, where I did that wedding image of one of my dear friends. And then I went from there, and I created these border brides. And so they have big lips, and they're luring you, and they're blowing kisses. But I also did them with different color schemes, and also different mediums. And then the strange thing is, and it wasn't until much later that I realized, once I would create a theme, I'd have a show, they sold out. I was very blessed with this. Then I would go back to this, which was very much so like the religion, the candles and rosaries. And then after that, I came back and I actually, my bride, it's almost like I started dealing with dysfunctional relationships. How funny. Here I had, these were the large ones that were, I don't know, like 60 inches, somewhere around there, 5.5 feet, and quite massive. And they're in couples. And so now here's the bride, here are the couples now, and they're dysfunctional because nobody's perfect, but they're working towards it. And so I have Patron and Venus and the blue bride, and this is absentee father, so on and so forth. And then this is one that was asked of me, and it was about a judge, a lawyer. They wanted something for a lawyer. So I came up with a Lady Liberty and the lawyer from Mexico, but he's an American citizen. This was way back, I don't know, 2001, somewhere around there. So then after that, of course, I did go, and after I finished this, I went back to my religious images. Then I came back and in discernment, and I actually did a series. Again, I was still looking at the outside world. I still am looking at the outside world, me looking out. And I actually created the countries, and this is called Plan B, but it's about discernment and wisdom of women. And as you can tell, I had not quite developed this. Later on, it does become developed. Matter of fact, I created sculpture pieces. Again, remember, you can actually work with different mediums. Then I kind of took a little break. I don't know if people understood my message there or what I was trying to say. So I actually went back and did my religious themes. This is an exhibit, A Woman's Place, and curated by Kathy Vargas. Fabulous, fabulous. And so I actually started with a simple question, is how did Jesus look? But I also started creating, how can I create this and make it more of an abstraction? Non-representational, and then slowly it became more of a prayer. And so this is where they actually then did become more of a prayer. And so it's sort of like, this is my godchild, Dante, and Jesus is embracing him. And how would it be as a prayer for Jesus to always embrace him? And I have when Jesus is embraced by his Father, God. And then this is one of my last ones. And I said, God, holding my hand, Jesus holding my hand as I create with all the darkness and so on and so forth. So you can understand that themes, they evolve. I do read a lot. And so knowing art history helps, because sometimes art themes are going to be based on you creating things from other artists and taking it from them and then making it your own. The other thing is, at the beginning, when I started all of this, I'm going to turn this on and finish this off. Sometimes you look at yourself, and that's how I actually started. Most of the students do start, like, what's troubling you, or how do you express your feelings of, emotions and so on and so forth. And those are very valid. So that's kind of looking inwards. That's another theme, and it could be a variation. The other thing you can do is, what I'm doing here with the prayers is actually dealing with the unknown. And a lot of people deal with the unknown. And what is the unknown? Well, it depends on you. And is the unknown God? Is the unknown spirits? Is the unknown variations? The Greeks actually also looked towards the unknown and created their known for that. So, and then the other thing is, there's times that you just want to create something just because you want it beautiful. You want to take something that's simple and just over exaggerate it and make it just absolutely stunning, like gorgeous necklaces and so on and so forth. So there's a variation of themes that young artists and artists are always working on, but it's usually, what is their story? Because remember, art is a form of communication. And what is the story that you're trying to communicate? Okay, guys, I think, oops, I don't want those awful looking lines there. There we go. Let's see. I got the lips. I'm gonna, this is a little too dark for me. Actually, I do like this orange better than the other red, so I don't know. Let me get a clean one here. There we go. Sorry, I had to kind of think. Actually, I'm doing this and I'm actually looking up here. So I know multitasking sometimes works and sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time it does work for me. Not as I'm getting older. That's kind of funny. Anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and print this. I've just noticed that I actually did put my thumbprints somewhere here, and I'm going to clean some of these spots. I'm still leaving some of the residue because that's kind of what I like. Again, I think you heard me say sometimes my instructors used to say, "You're such a clumsy artist." I said, I know, I can't go get away from it. There's nothing I can do about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this off and then leave you an image while I print. I'm only about 4 feet away from here, and I'm going to go ahead and run it through the press. And it's almost like, if you have never seen a press, it's like in a tortilla factory, how the tortillas get, you know, they flatten them out. Well, that's basically what I'm going to do with paper. I just saw a couple of areas that when the light hit, it just looked a little bit too shiny. So I'm just removing that, and I'm ready to put my paper on. And I'm ready to print. So, okay, there we go. My felt, I have felt on the top, and that actually adds a cushion to it, but I realized I did not straighten them out. The good thing is I'm not doing the outside edge. Otherwise, it would actually be devastating. I've got to make a note. I have notes all over on these works of art because I'm actually doing 5 of them, and each one's a little bit different. And let me see. There we go. There we go. So I'm going to leave, it looks a little shiny, but I'm going to let it dry for a week. And there it is. The next one I'll have is a deeper red, and this is where the eyes will come out more on both, and then on this one, the red will define the other darker red, or the bluer red will define, a cooler red will define the horns for my raspa borracha, and also define the lips. Okay, guys, so once again, what we are talking about today were themes, and I hope you understand that there's variations, usually within 6, whether you make a sculpture piece for people to enjoy, but really trying to figure out, do you go inside yourself to look at what you're feeling and how you think, or do you look at the outside world and define what is happening, such as like artists like Goya and others who were saying there's an injustice happening. Or do you just like to make things ornate and beautiful? Or and another one, do you like to do the unknown, which is more of the spirit world? And my favorite, which a lot of teachers do this, is art for art. Means that, do you duplicate another work of art that somebody else has done to create your own? And so think about those things, and teachers do help, but you as yourself, there's 6 of them that you can choose from, and no matter how, just follow yourself, and I guarantee you're gonna end up with one or more of those themes. So I'm going to be leaving you here, and God bless and create.